what do you smell literally right outside the building? We will not, we couldn't be big enough downtown to create a smell that ever leaves our property. It's not even going to really leave our buildings. It's just not possible. We don't have enough space. We couldn't build a rick house big enough to create a permeating smell in downtown. It had to be over 75 feet tall. And that's the first thing Steve Davis asked me about our new building is how tall is it? Because CBD can't be 75 feet, right? Something like that. But and they can speak to it if they want to. You don't necessarily have to take my word for it. But our fermentation tanks are going to be closed. You know, the smell comes from mostly two places: evaporation from barrels, rick houses, and the fermentation process where CO2 is being released along with a slight odor. That's when you walk into a distillery. That's really what you smell, is that fermentation. We will be using stainless steel, completely closed cap fermentation tanks, so they will not. There won't be any smell to the process, and if it is, it will be so restricted. It won't. It's not even a situation where it will go outside of our property. It won't go outside of our buildings. People that visit our visitor center won't know they're at a distillery until, I mean, they'll know they're at a distillery. That's where they're going, but not because of any olfactory nuisance. I actually looked this up. I can't find any cases of olfactory nuisance lawsuits or anything when it comes to distilleries. Olfactory being smell pollution. So we absolutely have designed for that. That will not be a problem for you.
So there are things in this new
absolutely
facility that are not in the older facilities in
absolutely
places
you're
that
absolutely
will protect
100%,
because no one should have to smell.
No, you're right. And that was probably a fault on our part Thursday. And if there's any smell, regardless of whether it's pleasant or not, it won't leave our buildings. And we're designing our production facility is insulated, and the where we may store barrels is concrete block. It's not that sheet metal, style building. Everything is going to be captured inside. And the reason I bring up the people we went on the field trip with, they can confirm that. Don't take my word for it. If you want to ask them, all of them can say absolutely. We went to 4 distilleries bigger than what we're going to be, and you had to be in their building to smell anything. As far as property value goes, I actually called some of my counterparts, PVA in my day job that I'm very thankful to have. I called all my counterparts that have distilleries our size and in urban areas, and all of them said that property values actually go up around distilleries. Distilleries become catalysts of growth for your community. Hotels, increased property values, new developments, and things like that. And the 2 prime examples I would give is there are 12 distilleries in downtown Louisville, and they have rebuilt their downtown around these distilleries. A prime example with a residential tinge to it is Lexington. Lexington has 3 now, distilleries in the middle of their downtown. One of them is massive distillery that the Alltech pharmaceutical company owns. And all of those, like I talked to David O'Neill, who's PVA of Fayette County, the house values in that area are just skyrocketing because people want to live, they want to live this, around this industry. Another prime example, my wife went to U of K. Sorry, I went to U of L, so I always say U of K. I think it's sort of turning the knife on them. But my wife went to UK, and she talked about, what's it called, the distillery district now? And the distillery district wasn't a thing when she was in college. In fact, you didn't go to that part of Lexington when she was in college. And you go there now, and they've got pizza joints and restaurants and 2 distilleries, and it's like a warehouse district's just blown up into this beautiful thing. So there's no example of an adverse effect on property values when it comes to craft distilleries in rural or in urban or residential areas like this. It's by all accounts that I can find, it's quite the opposite. Now, I didn't find it. I called Franklin County which is, there's 4 distilleries in Franklin County, and even the massive ones that are maybe dealing with other kinds of issues that have been brought up here, they haven't seen a negative or adverse effect on their property values for that, but we're going to take care of that problem before it ever becomes an issue as well.
Question, Andrew.
Yes, sir.
Do we have any new technology I know it's going to be something that comes out in the air. It's going to be something somewhere. Is there any kind of filters you can put on anything?
It's funny you say that. I think that's my $1 million. That's how I become a millionaire, honestly. No, we are exploring, and we had this conversation with the mayor. We are exploring carbon filtering as far as that process. That is absolutely not in vogue in this industry so far. It's been tried in the industry, but as an opportunity to recapture the ethanol vapor, so they could recondense it and have that alcohol back. Because you hear this myth about the angel share and stuff, but really that's money being lost. You talk about that what comes out of the barrel but doesn't go into a bottle is money that you're not making. So they were looking at they've experimented in ways of trying to recapture the alcohol. But we're just looking for, absolutely. Bill Fiddler, who is in Texas tonight, I mean, you can't get a better chemical mind than him. Ran Brentag for years and years and years, has been like, you want to talk about perking somebody's ears up. We're absolutely, it's not in this industry now, but we are exploring it. And if we're the ones that figure it out, we're going to monetize it.
Good luck.
Am I allowed to ask Andrew something?
And please come up to the podium.
Oh, okay.
And just because it's televised, and so we need to make sure that you're heard and seen legibly by the audience.
Okay. Well, you're talking about Louisville. I'm from Louisville. I wouldn't want to move into Anchorage, Kentucky, where I grew up, next to a distillery. Nobody in Anchorage would allow a distillery. Do you know where it is? Okay. My cousin lives in Ogden Park. I don't know if you know. There's no distilleries in Ogden Park. So nobody would buy a house next to a distillery. I am for our community growing. I'm just saying, you're talking like that's going to make my property more. I don't think it might make it less, but I sure don't think it's more to say, oh, I live next door to it. I'm just being honest. I'm trying to be honest about my feelings
Yes, ma'am.
and my property value.
Right.
And
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
all.
Absolutely. Yeah, we don't discount that for a second.
And Joel, as you're leaving, I just wanted to say thank you for everything that you do in the community
Yes.
and for voicing your concerns. We appreciate having you here.
I thank you so much for
Yes, ma'am.
saying that.
So there are no other speakers that have signed up to speak with concerns. We have 2 speakers that are signed up as rebuttal speakers if needed. At this point in time, Andrew, do you feel it is necessary that Mr. McCarroll speak? on
No,
your
sir.
behalf? Okay. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for any of the participants that were part of the hearing before we close the hearing part?
Well, I did want to, they were talking about, he mentioned about this black fungus. I need to know you said you had some expert on the brewery that could speak. What is it and how long does it take before somebody may recognize that it's all over their property?
That's a good and fair question. So I think it would be good to have him on and maybe speak to that if he's available. I think the one advantage that I have that you don't is that I've heard this a couple of times before, but I don't think you've ever been able to ask that question.
Sure. Can you come and just define it for them?
Sure. If you don't mind, to state your name and address for the record, please.
Matt McCarroll, 64 Hop Yard Road, Murfreesboro, Illinois.
All right, if you don't mind, to raise your right hand, please.
Do you swear that the statements given shall be the truth to the best of your ability?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, sir.
You mean just a basic explanation of how
Because I understand that, I'm from the north end, and we got some great homes up there. And we don't want to do something that interrupts those people's way of life. So if it's gonna be something, I wanna know what's it gonna be.
Yeah, so basically what we're talking about is a whiskey fungus, and it interestingly can grow on ethanol, using that as an energy or fuel source that's there. And that's what we see growing on properties surrounding rick houses and places that produce a high enough concentration of ethanol vapor in the air, can cause that to grow. And then the key issue is looking at the concentration and how far that spreads in that area.
So what Andrew's telling us, he's not gonna be nowhere near big enough to create that kind of problem.
Right, the classic cases that you might read about, they're looking at rick houses that are aging, 20, 40, or even 100,000 barrels. And my understanding is they're looking at planning to age about 1,500 barrels maximum.
Good deal. Any other questions while we have Mr. McCarroll? Thank you, sir. We appreciate your coming down to see us today. Are there any other people who came here tonight who were not on the list, who just might have a parting comment or two as part of this hearing?
Can I speak?
Oh, yes, sir. Dick, please come up. I'm so, if you don't mind, when you get up to the pub, just gotta get ready to state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Dick Bevan. I live at 6056 Laurel Trail.
Thank you. And if you'll raise your right hand.
Do you swear that the statements given shall be the truth to the best of your ability?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
All right.
So I'm probably more excited about this distillery than anybody in Henderson. I grew up in Loretto, Kentucky. If you know where Loretto is, if you've ever seen a Maker's Mark bottle, it's got red wax. My mother, when she was alive, dipped the wax at Maker's Mark. My dad's retired from Seagram's. My mother-in-law from Barton's, and my father-in-law from Jim Beam. So I've got a history of bourbon. And I do, and Jewel was talking about the smell. Well, if you grew up in Maker's Mark, if you grew up in Loretto, there was a smell. But their way of making bourbon is totally different. They had vats, probably as tall as this building, and they were open. So, you could walk in and smell the bourbon. So it was kind of a cool smell. But we're not going to have that, so I don't think smell's ever going to be an issue with us. But I wanted to assure everybody in this room, I'm an investor of the distillery. And I want everybody to know that we are not going to do anything to upset this community. I love Henderson. I haven't been here as many years as you guys have. I moved down here in 1980, but I love it. And we want to be a good corporate partner. So be assured of that. I know most of the people out there. I consider a lot of them friends. And I do not want to do anything, we do not want to do anything to hurt those people. So that's the most important thing that we need to let the community know, and we're never going to intentionally do anything to hurt those guys. So that's all I have to say, and I think that's really important. I ran a business for 49 years, and we put our employees first, and we put the community second. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you for investing in us.
We did.
Andrew said earlier that Abby Dixon had her hand raised on the screen somewhere.
All right. Is she available via Zoom? Abby, can you hear us?
I'm here.
All right. Ma'am, if you would like to
Yes.
testify, if you don't mind to state your name and address for the record.
My name is Abby Dixon. My address is 733 North Main.
And if you don't mind to raise your right hand.
I'll tell you.
Wait,
Well, before you tell us, raise your right hand. Thank you.
do you swear that the statements given shall be the truth to the best of your ability?
I do.
All right. The floor is yours.
Thank you all for allowing me to speak on Zoom. I'm out of town selling Henderson as it's a destination for visitors, so couldn't be there in person, but I appreciate you all allowing me to speak anyway. A lot of the things that I wanted to touch on have already been covered. I'll say this, Michael Irvin, you might have a future in speaking on behalf of the tourism industry. I couldn't have said it better myself. bourbon is a huge industry in Kentucky, and to elaborate a little bit on that, just with my experiences working in this industry, we get visitors into our Welcome Center on Water, literally, no exaggeration, on a weekly basis. Some have planned a trip to Henderson. Honestly, some saw the sign for the Riverwalk when they were traveling down the road and decided to pull off. But almost every time, because Kentucky is known for bourbon, folks ask, is there a bourbon experience in Henderson? Or, you know, where should I go to the closest distillery? And it hurts us every time to send folks to Owensboro or to Muhlenberg County to the Bear Distillery or south to Hopkinsville. We have some great partners in the community that work with us on bourbon experiences, for example, when the riverboats come to town, but we still don't have a bourbon experience to really call our own. So I first want to say, to be able to capitalize on that, you know, I'm not sure that I even fully can grasp what this means for our community as far as economic impact through tourism. I was just in a session last week with our tourism commissioner. Many of you met him when he was in town for our hospitality breakfast back in May. So Mike Manget had a panel discussion with Chris Thompson, who is CEO of Brand USA. So Mr. Thompson does for the United States what I do for Henderson, just to put it, you know, really simply. Brand USA has partnered with Kentucky to sell Kentucky bourbon specifically as America's native spirit around the world. So the millions of dollars that have been invested for putting bourbon out to the world and tying it back to Kentucky is incredible. It's not something that I think any of us ever expected to see, you know, in our experience in the tourism industry. People are coming from all around the world to Kentucky. Now is our chance to get a piece of that bourbon pie. And I'm so grateful that we have two local entrepreneurs, Andrew and Meredith, and the local investors, which, by the way, you know, whenever I hear Mr. Bevan talk about, you know, you all would never do anything to harm our community, I believe that, because when I look at those investors, these are not just great business people, these are philanthropists. These are people that have put their money where their mouth is by investing their time and their dollars into our community to make our community a better place. So I believe these people when they say they would never do anything to harm our community. It's no surprise that as, you know, our tourism organization, we are very much in favor of this distillery, not just because of what it means for bringing visitors in, but what it means for our local businesses that will gain a portion of this economic impact by bringing those folks in. The second piece of this, and you know, I spoke to this at a meeting the other night, and I don't want to be redundant, but I'm a downtowner myself, so this is me speaking as a member of the neighborhood, just as, you know, Joel did, and others. I live on the 700 block of North Main Street. To kind of condense the story, whenever I moved to Henderson, I chose Henderson almost 10 years ago. And we didn't live downtown, but I knew whenever I got to know this community, downtown was where I wanted to be. And it was because of the potential I saw to live in a vibrant community, to be able to walk to events and businesses, you know, to go down to Antler Roast and get coffee on a Saturday morning, to go to dinner at night at our local restaurant so I never have to cook. We love our downtown neighborhood, and I trust Dr. Heiss, the expert that was brought in to comment on the whiskey fungus and the effect that it may or may not have on our homes. I trust the investors, and I trust the owners of Henderson Distilling Company to make sure that the neighbors are taken care of. And I just want to say, as you know, maybe a new generation of Hendersonians that you know, we're living in downtown and we love our downtown. As a neighbor, I'm so excited to see this investment come into our neighborhood. And I want to say thank you to those who have invested to make it happen.
Thank you, ma'am. And I believe we
Thanks,
have,
Ed.
oh, I'm sorry. Did
No, I
you?
was just saying thanks.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And I believe we have one more presenter who had reserved time.
Got one more,
Uh,
Chase.
Yes. Sorry.
That's Kurt.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name's Kurt Hamilton. I live at 961 Bellwood in Henderson.
And if you don't mind, raise your right hand.
Do you swear that the statements given shall be the truth to the best of your ability?
I do.
Thank
I
you.
do. Mr. Mayor and members of the commission, I come here today not as a lawyer for anyone, not as an investor for anyone, but as a downtown business owner and perhaps more importantly, a property owner that has invested a lot of money into 2 buildings already. We've built 2 luxury lofts. We have another luxury loft that we have as an Airbnb. We own the lot that the Perch is located on that we are going to upgrade as well and improve so that empty concrete goes away. And I want to ask this commission, and you've heard a lot of testimony here tonight. No one's really come out and said, please approve this. Please approve this. Vote yes on this zoning change. This is necessary for our town. I really enjoyed Abby Dixon's testimony because she's a young person who has chosen Henderson as her home. She didn't have to. She did that by choice. In fact, we've had tons of young people that have chosen to move to Henderson to make their lives, to raise their families, just like a lot of us did when we had options to live elsewhere. We have people in leadership from Madisonville, everywhere. My 2 children are married and they have chosen to relocate to Henderson. They have jobs, they're raising their families here. This distillery is an indication of the progress that's going on in downtown Henderson. Andrew said it best. We're in the midst of a renaissance. We're in the midst of a renaissance. People, especially after COVID, love what we're doing here. I counted up, we've got about 40 visits in our Airbnb, The Nest, over the last year from 20 different states, give or take. Alaska, California, Texas. People come to Henderson and they love the small town feel of what we have here. I know there are concerns about a distillery or anything, but you think about this, what's it replacing? An industrial site already. That was going to be more trucks, more creosote poles coming in. There was a big power plant right across the river as late as, 10 years ago? That field is cold, all right? It's toxic, it smelled terrible. We have bakery feeds here in town, and any of us that work downtown on a foggy morning, and we show up, what do we smell? That sort of sickening smell tinged with some cinnamon of bakery feeds, all right? I know what it is, and that affects my ability to enjoy our properties, but you know what? That's part of living life in Henderson. To me, the biggest stinky thing that we have that we're never going to change is that river. The river in flood, if the wind's right, doesn't smell great at all. So, and I trust my new neighbors, the distillery, for for fixing those things. I trust them when they tell me that the whiskey fungus is not going to be an issue. They're not going to make as much bourbon as they do in Lynchburg, Tennessee, I'm guessing, or anywhere else that's been an issue. And I believe them when they tell me that they're going to clean my property if it does become an issue. And let's face it, if it does become an issue, that's because they're killing it. They're doing really well. They're employing tons of people. They're making a lot of bourbon right here in Henderson, which is a traditional thing here. And this is how our town really got started. Tobacco, bourbon, coal, built all these big buildings and all these big houses downtown. So,
And gambling.
and excuse me?
And gambling.
And gambling. What? I'm sorry, didn't hear that. Didn't hear that, Commissioner Pruitt? Gambling, baby? I don't know. I don't think that's on the books, though. So, in any event, I asked the commission, please vote yes on this zoning change. It's only going to be great for our downtown and for our community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. And I believe Chase wanted to come up and say a few words. If you would, sir, please state your name and address for the record.
Chase Fulcher, 7500 Negley Road.
All right. If you raise your right hand, please.
Do you swear that the statements given shall be the truth to the best of your ability?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Hi, Mayor, hi, Commissioners. I just want to say, as an investor of the bourbon, as a financial consultant, there was many places I could have invested my money, but I invested it because of Henderson. I think this is one niche area we've been missing a long time. Second reason I invested in Meredith and Andrew, and I want to personally thank both of you all publicly for laying it all on the line, willing to risk everything you had to stay here, live here, and your dream to put this business here, to kind of fill a niche that Henderson doesn't have. So I want to publicly thank Andrew and Meredith for your investment of laying it all on the line for Henderson. So thank you all, and I ask you to vote yes.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments before we close the public hearing? Seeing or hearing none, the public hearing portion of this meeting is now closed. And we are moving on to the commissioners' comments, questions, suggestions, and motion. And so now would be the appropriate time. If you have any questions or if you have any comments, please share those. And yeah, please do. Commissioner Pruitt.
I just want to thank all you guys. If you guys pull this off, right here in Henderson, that's going to be awesome. That right there, it's not only going to just be y'all, there'll be other places that can't wait to get close to it. And I understand her concern, and I know you guys back there, you're going to do what's right. But you do have a legal document that you are signing, correct?
Yes, we're committed to making it work.
Okay. I just can't wait till it gets here. I'm really in favor of it. I'm all, everybody, I don't have to tell everybody, born and raised here. First one in the merger, city high to county high, so I packed that. So putting two powerhouses together, look at Henderson. I never would have dreamed that our downtown would be doing what it's doing. People like Kurt taking his own money, investing, and saying, hey, let's get rid of our 9-hole golf course. I don't play golf, but if you're gonna play, you ought to have 18-hole. So I'm all on board. I just can't wait till you get it done.
Would you like time for any comments?
Sure. I want to thank you all for coming too, and I think I've tried to carefully consider, everybody's comments. And I think everybody that's come here tonight and spoke, whether you're for or against, you've made some really good points and some really good things to point out. With respect to the water issue, really good things to watch. With respect to the smell, let's keep them accountable on the promises they've made. When I think about this project in total, and when I think about this property that we're talking about, the big concern that I had when Hempel was leaving, one was what's going to happen to that property? Is it going to sit there and be vacant? And how many years is it going to be vacant before somebody's going to come along and invest millions of dollars into it to turn it into something? That doesn't happen every day in Henderson, Kentucky, where somebody comes along with millions of dollars to invest it into a property and do something like that. So when this project came forward, it just seemed like a home run. I think about Henderson as kind of like a crown, and this is one of the crown jewels that'll be in downtown Henderson to make it better. I know the neighbors are bringing a lot of very valid concerns indeed, but when you think about who else could have been your neighbor there, who else has been your neighbor there, I think it really is an improvement on the downtown area and something that I really look forward to. That's all I have to say.
Commissioner Thomas, would you like to?
You know where I stand. Force them in favor of it. Which would you rather look at, a pole yard or a distillery? And I want to commend everybody in here. When I first saw everybody show up, I thought, oh, hell, this will be ugly. But I mean, everybody worked together behind the scenes, and I think everybody's in favor of it. And it just shows, once again, collaboration. We can just go, like Brad said, we outkick our coverage. But I will say all downtown really needed two things, was a distillery and a hotel. And now we got a distillery. Thank you.
Commissioner Witt, do you have any comments you'd like to answer?
I don't need to add to that. I would echo all their comments.
Yeah, and same for me. I would certainly echo everybody's comments, and I want to say that really take it a step farther, I'm proud of everybody who showed up tonight and went through the process. You know, the process a lot of times can be very concerning when you're dealing with a multi-million-dollar project. When you start to see people have concerns and then more people have concerns, I can't, actually, I was about to say I can't imagine, but I can. I know exactly what that feels like, actually. When you have this vision and you want to accomplish something and you hear that people having concerns, it's hard not to take that personally, as if they have concerns with you. And instead, see them for what they are, and that's just concerns for themselves, their property, the project. And so I think in this situation, the process that we have in place in Henderson has really worked out well and has led to this venue to where we're all here together. There has been progress outside and before this meeting happened, so that you didn't just show up and not had these talks and not made progress toward addressing the vast majority of the concerns. And so I'm proud of everybody for working together and for working together on such a grandiose project that could really be an economic engine to help our downtown go even farther. So thank you for being a part of the process. With that, we can either entertain a motion to approve the rezoning request or a motion to deny the rezoning request.
Make a motion that we approve it.
Commissioner Pruitt has made a motion that we approve it, and a second from Commissioner Thomas. Any other questions, comments, or suggestions? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Witt?
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles?
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Mayor Staten?
Aye. And with that, did I close the public hearing? I did, didn't I? With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Goodbye.